Thanks for listening to the AZ Wildcats postgame. I'm your host, Mike Luke, joined by Anthony Gimino. Arizona falls 31-26 to West Virginia. Anthony, listen, Arizona fought at the end. I think you got to give them credit for that. But at the end, I don't know that this is going to I don't know that there's any way to put this. This is rock bottom. West Virginia is not a good football team. They're missing their quarterback. They're missing their first round offensive lineman. They're missing their best defensive player. And they came in and they led from start to finish. This is a terrible loss, Anthony.
Well, Mike, I think you just stole all of my thunder because those are all the reasons why Arizona should have won this game.
Right.
And the 15 minutes that I think people got to feel good in the fourth quarter with the comeback and everything. Okay, great. But a team traveling cross country, first of all, and we've seen that across college football this year, those teams having to travel 2 to 3 time zones on the road have not done well. They've not been winning games, and they've not been covering the spread for those who are interested in such things. But West Virginia did just that with all those other negatives that you talked about. They didn't have their quarterback. They didn't have their first-round offensive lineman. And they came in as an underdog.
Right.
And Arizona really, they kicked it away for about 50 minutes before they decided to rally. But those first 50 minutes were too big of a hole. And, there's moments I thought the offense looked a little better, not what it could be, but at times it looked a little bit better. The defense is still kind of playing hard, although injured. But any critical situation in the game, West Virginia won. So now you start looking ahead and you're like, okay, this was definitely one of those games you looked at in the second half of the season that, okay, Arizona can get a little bit right, can get to some kind of bowl game or whatever, feel a little bit good about themselves, but not tonight, Mike.
Yeah, and that to me is the problem. And I was listening to Lamont a little bit while I was up in the press box. And Lamont made a point I thought was interesting. He said there's just especially with the offense, because that to me has been the biggest problem with this team this year. And I know that they rallied at the end and whatnot, but the offense to me has been the problem this year. And there's no urgency. There's never any tempo. I mean, in the end it got a little better, but there's no tempo. There's no, we're going to run the ball right up the middle, and each time it's going to go basically nowhere. And then when we throw, maybe it's a little bit more effective. But I still have no idea whatsoever what they want to do on offense, what they want to be on offense. And that question is asked of Brent Brennan every single post game. What are you looking to do on offense? What are you looking to do? And it's, we're still trying to figure that one out. We're still trying to figure it. I just don't know how you are this far into the season and you're still trying to figure things out. And basically every presser is kind of just a rinse and repeat. Well, we played really hard. I'm proud of the guys. We got to stick together. I've got to coach better. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, his press conferences are not for inspiration. I mean, I don't know what he's like in meetings, whatever, in the locker room, whatever. He may be a different kind of guy, but in press conferences, he's at really, really low energy. Let's just go with low energy, right?
Right.
But you look at, I think just based on, I didn't watch a whole lot of San Jose State in the last several years. Sorry, but what we've seen of Brennan was he kind of ran a pro style spread at San Jose State, a lot of 11 personnel. But that would be considered very, middle of the road type thing. I think he came in here and just wanted to be a little bit of everything, wanted to be a balanced offense. And they've ended up being masters of none of it, because what are they? I mean, there's dozens of styles of college football offenses. One of the things that makes college football great. You can be an option team. You can be an RPO team. You can be a physical, we're going to run all the time kind of team. You're going to be a short, quick passing game. You can be air raid. You can be all these things. And I think Arizona tried to do a little bit of everything. And, Brent Brennan mentioned this after the first 3 or first 3 or 4 games. That maybe they had two. But that's on that. I think the whole problem was laid for several months in the offseason. Whatever plan they had in mind was not a good plan, or did not fit the personnel, or wasn't able to be executed or adjusted from.
That's kind of where I'm at with this one, is that it just doesn't feel right. Nothing good feels about it. Or nothing feels good, Anthony. It doesn't feel healthy at all.
Well, I mean, for about 50 minutes of this game, it was unwatchable. I mean, that's part of what I wrote last week, right? They're bad, they're boring, and they're basic. They were maybe a little less basic, but for most of tonight, that's what Arizona was. They're bad and they're boring. They're really unwatchable.
They're unwatchable, and I don't know what they're trying to do with this, and I think that's the part that is very frustrating about all of this, is I don't know what they are trying to do. Mm-hmm. And I just don't know how you're this far along. And here's my question too, is that Arizona, you've got to be able to build on something. And again, we talked about it. Arizona, and you know this better than anybody, Arizona's never been able to build on back-to-back good, they've just never been able to build on a really good season. Whether that was 93, then 94, you finish in the top 25, you finished 25th, but you didn't really, it was underwhelming. Then you have the same time you have, with the 98, 99 was obviously a massive disappointment. And then this year, you go into it, Arizona, preseason 21 and preseason 21, but at the same time, you also know that this team should be better than they are putting out there. Now, you could say that they lost players, they did lose players. I get all that, but they also should be better than they're showing.
Yeah, I think there's a happy medium. I don't think personnel-wise, with the way some injuries have gone, with the way, I'll pick up on this in a minute, but I still think losing Krusky Merritt was huge, because that was, Conley's good. Is he probably like the 8th or 9th or 10th best running back in the Big 12? Yeah, probably is. But I think Krusky Merritt was a difference maker. And right now, this team has one difference maker on offense. T-Mac.
Right.
So they have no speed. Losing Speedy Luke didn't help in that regard, but they haven't used Patterson's speed very well. Just throw those, remember Mike Stoop would throw 20 bubble screens a game?
Right.
I'm kind of in favor of throwing 20. Just get the ball to somebody in space. Get it out quickly. But again, that's not. It doesn't seem like they're trying to major in anything offensively. But I think there is a medium there where, yeah, the ceiling, the projected ceiling was probably a little out of reach. That said, they should not be on a 4-game losing streak. They should not have been blown out in some of these games, and they should not have gotten down 3 scores to West Virginia.
Yes. Now let's talk a little bit about and by the way, am I echoing at all? Do I sound okay?
You've sounded better, Mike.
All right. Well, I'm not going to take the blame on this one. This is stupid. But anyways, when it comes to this, when it comes to the defense, then I'm also going to give Duane Akina some credit here, because at the same time, this is he's dealing with a patchwork unit. All of his players half of his team is out. This isn't a good situation, and they're at least battling, I guess. And I think in a lot of games they've been good enough to win. I think that's the problem.
I would agree with that. And part of, again, I'll go back to 3rd and 9, 3rd and 6, 4th and 3. They just, whenever they get a chance to make a play, usually they don't. So that's not helping the offense. The offense isn't helping the defense. So it's all working together, or it's all not working together, let's put it that way. But I thought, the defense still seems to be playing hard. They still seem to be generally swarming to the ball, if we want to use that word. But you get into a 7, 8, 9 play drive, one of those plays are going to get out of position and give up something critical. and
All right.
that's what they're doing. So they're close, but they're not there.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at now. I think I should sound better at least, or hopefully I do sound a little
No,
bit
you
better.
do. That's
Right.
that's
Yeah.
deep. That's smooth.
Yeah, I'm not using the mic again, and this is frustrating, but whatever. All right, now let's talk a little bit about now where we are at then going forward with this team, Anthony. Listen, this is a team that was supposed to be 21. This was a team that was supposed to be 21, and I thought that was fair, honestly. This is a team that had 3 first-round picks. This is a team, and they're still going to be. I mean, you look at ESPN; they've got them in there. But I guess my question is the regression that we are seeing. I think that's what's so frustrating about this is the regression. Is that it is a guy like a Wendell Moy was somebody that the previous coaching staff was begging to come up to Seattle. He was looking really, really good. And lo and behold, he's regressed. There have just been players that it just doesn't make sense to me why they've regressed. And well, the other thing too is that you didn't really add anybody. And I think in this day and age, you're kind of at the stage where you've got to be able to add people in the portal. And outside of Conley's okay.
Yeah,
he doesn't. Trey Smith's
Right.
okay, not bad. But those are just San Jose State guys. Those are essentially the only real contributors you brought.
Yeah, I mean, getting hired in late January is not great to pick up portal guys.
Right.
I think at that stage, the better talent has been picked over.
Right.
Probably everybody who's in there's kind of just waiting to see what's going to happen, and by then they're off somewhere else. You've got the spring window, but the spring window is not usually as talented as the winter window, unless you're able to get unless you're able to get Damian Martinez,
right,
from Miami. That was awesome. That was a good one. Arizona couldn't quite close the deal on that one for many obvious reasons.
Yes.
But there's not a lot of guys like Damian Martinez who are available in late April, early May.
Okay.
So I think, and I know you and Sheer talked about this during the week, but it sure seems like this staff took some guys just to get some guys.
And
maybe that's all you could do at that point, but you'd hope they'd be able to do a little bit better because Jed did take some guys with him. Plus, Jed took depth with him up to Washington because there's no, especially the freshmen. There's no backstop with like talented freshmen on this team.
Jed made an interesting point that I want to get to in a second that you brought up, but let's be honest though, man, it is now time for the Sanderson Ford drive of the game. Now, you might say to yourself, Mike, what could that Sanderson Ford drive of the game have been? Well, I'm going to tell you what it was. I thought it was Arizona starting out in a I thought it was Arizona starting out in a very tough light. The Quali Conley fumble, that was a disaster. Arizona was moving the football. That was the most Arizona thing ever to have that occur.
You couldn't pick like the drive that got him within a score late in the game,
right? No, because that didn't. That I think was there. There were a lot of points that were kind of deceptive there, in my opinion. To be honest with you, again, this West Virginia.
If they stop the dude on 3rd and 7 or whatever, they get the ball back with 2 minutes to go.
But they were up 10 to 17 points almost the entire game, I guess is my point. But you disagree, though, Anthony Gimino. What is your Sanderson Ford drive of the game?
Well, I think I just said it. We're going to pick the drive that got him within 31-26.
Right. And
I mean, the juxtaposition of Noah dropping the sure touchdown pass and then just bulldozing his way into the end zone, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
You got to give it up to, to Noah. I mean, whatever he and T-Mac have, whatever the team's got going on, those two guys played really hard tonight.
All right, now let me ask you this: you've been covering college football a long time. You've always said, and I thought you've made an interesting point. And when you make an interesting point, it's something that I want to continue to hit on. So when you just kind of like you like Jason Shearer, this is true. But I do want to say so. Oh, I want to get back to Jedd Fisch for a second. Jedd Fisch, I thought said something very interesting to me.
He didn't say it to you.
No, he said it to me. No, he said it to me.
Oh, okay, go.
I was able to actually chat off record with Jed Fish a number of times. He would even text me from time to time, Jed Fish. He said something, and this is where I keep going back to with Brennan. When Jed Fish came in here, you knew exactly what he wanted to do. Now, and he had a template. He said, if we're going to miss, we are going to miss big, especially on the offensive line. Now, listen, and he told me this 3 or 4 times. He said, I don't know. Listen, I'm not going to be able to go into Alabama or Georgia or Mississippi and get these 6'4", 330-pound 5-star kids. I'm not going to be able to get those kids. They're not coming here. They don't dream of coming to Arizona, nor can we afford them. But he said, what I can do is I can get big kids. I can get Polynesians, because a lot of times they're a little bit under the radar, whether they're in Hawaii, whether they're, whatever, late bloomers, whatever the case may be. That is going to be my template. And you looked at it. You got a Jonas Savanea, a first round. He's going to be a first round pick. You had Wendell Moy, who until this year looked like he was going to be really, really good. But when he missed on guys, he missed big. A Tylen Gonzalez and Elijah Payne, they're not good. But I can at least look at him and say they're both 6'7", 320 pounds. I know what he was doing. And then he said, we have to have speed on the outside. We have to be able to have guys that can make plays, whether that is in the running game or whether that is in the passing game. You knew what he wanted to do, and he was able to put together a roster that, let's be quite frank, that was a really good team last year on both sides of the line, which is something that Arizona struggled with. I don't know what Jed Fish. I don't know what Brennan's what his goal is. I have no clue what his goal is, to be honest with you. And I think that's something that's a little frustrating, because you inherited a better situation than Jed did, obviously. But I knew from day one what Jed wanted to do. I don't know what Brennan wants to do.
Well, anybody asked him?
Yes, and we asked him. He said, we're still trying to figure it out.
I mean, he hasn't had a full recruiting class. He hasn't
True.
So obviously he's going to be in on Polynesians.
Right.
I think his strategy in Texas is pretty clear, which I think is sound. Right. You're going to go into Texas and you're going to get a bunch of 3-star, hopefully high 3-star guys that are left behind when all the 4 and 5-star kids go to Texas and A&M and Bama and Ole Miss and Oklahoma or whatever it is. And that's the plan that worked for Tomey. It's the plan that worked for Stoops. And just based on where some of the 2025 class is coming from, that seems like a strategy, right? He talked about that in the preseason. Yes.
The problem, though, is that you're going to start losing all these kids.
Well, a ton of percent. I mean, college football moves fast. It moves way faster than it ever did. So the recruiting class you have in late October is not going to be the recruiting class you have in December or February, whatever it is.
Right. Now, there's something I want to get to. Well, we got some quotes here coming in from Brent Brennan at the presser. Okay. I think Arizona has a chance to be – I think we have a chance to be a good football team, but we haven't been able to prove it yet.
Well, you have had a chance to prove it.
You've had a chance
to prove it, Mike. I mean, right.
You've had a chance to prove it. I just don't know that it. I don't know what else to say on that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting.
And they're running out of runway.
Right. Yes. Well, they are running out of runway. They're almost at the end of the runway at this point. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. You're 2/3 of the way through this season. So when are you going to start proving it? Because you may not get a 5th game on top of that.
Right. Now, I do want to say something that you've always made a good point on, and like I said, I want to talk about that. But first, NUTRL. Anthony Gimino, have you ever had NUTRL before?
Never.
All right, that's your problem. That is your problem. Now, you might look at the great Kevin Thomas behind the scene, the prodigious Kevin Thomas, and say, man, that guy's probably had NUTRL in the past. He has had NUTRL. I have had NUTRL as well. It is very tasty. Check out NUTRL. Again, another one of these ones where you're going to thank me later on this, everybody. Keep it tasty. Enjoy responsibly. 2024 Anheuser-Busch NUTRL, flavored vodka and carbonation, St. Louis, Missouri, and the elephant in the room, Circle K. Circle K, Anthony Gimino. When was the last time you went to Circle K? Be honest.
I've been to Circle K twice this week because I got a nail in my tire, and they had those wonderful operating air things there. And
Oh,
I had
those
to
are great.
go. But it's great because you go to a lot of places and those things are never working.
Let me ask you this,
Circle K
Anthony.
by my house, working.
Let me ask you this, Anthony. Can you take a picture next time and then say real time and then tweet it out? Would you consider doing this?
I would consider it.
Okay, that's what I need you to do. Join Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Circle K, be part of the Inner Circle. Okay, now let's talk a little bit. You've always said this, and we're going to get to the super snaps at the end. So, by the way, Greg, very nice words from all of you. But Anthony, you said something that when you talked about coaches, you said when a coach loses it, it's very, very difficult to get it back. Very difficult.
Oh, yes.
Here's my question about it.
What if you never have it?
Two things. If you never had it or the city turns on you in that first year, is it possible to ever get that back? Serious question.
No. I'm sure there's examples, but not in recent years.
Right.
I mean, you maybe you want to go back to like the late 80s and Frank Beamer at Virginia Tech took 3-4 years to get rolling kind of thing.
Right.
And then he was great, but who's got time for that now? So I don't think we live in a world now where somebody gets, they always talked about the 5-year plan. I don't think anybody has that kind of patience anymore.
Right.
But I've also always said that and again, it's not going to be decided by you or me, or really, it will partially be decided by fans because they're the ones spending the money.
Right.
But if you're in the athletic department, if you're DRF, thank you.
DRF, yes.
DRF. If you make that decision that you've been observing, Brent Brennan is not the guy, if that's what you think, don't delay. There's never any benefit to delaying the inevitable.
But let me ask you the next question then. What do you do then? Because he's got a $14 million buyout.
I know.
And on top of that, forget about that just for a second. You've also got to have money for a new coaching staff, for an NIL, et cetera, et cetera. If you're going to go to, and again, I don't know Humberto Lopez, but he's got a lot of money. If you are money that I will have at some point, I think, Luke. Yes, if I will remember this one if I actually. But a guy like that, if you're coming to him and you basically need $20 million or whatever the case may be, it's interesting in this day and age because Humberto Lopez then can essentially, he's not going to maybe sit in on the meetings, but he can essentially have veto power then over anybody that you don't want to hire. And quite frankly, he should be able to have veto power.
Well, if that's with that much money, yeah. But yeah, that's right. I mean, not only is there the buyout to consider, and I'm not there. I'm not advocating for that.
No, I know. We're just talking about the process.
Just saying. Again, and we don't know. We know the season's been bad. We know the season. I mean, you can maybe make the case that they kind of played a little bit better today. But again, against a team they absolutely should have beaten.
This was not a good football.
We don't know. What if this season ends up 3-9 with a loss to ASU?
I've said this before.
I'm just saying it. You talked earlier. You said this is rock bottom. It bottomed out.
I did.
Don't be so sure.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, it can get worse. This is
Arizona
football.
You may be saying the same thing next week. Maybe saying something different. I don't know, but you might be saying the same thing.
I mean, this has been Arizona. This is Arizona football. I never say never when it comes to this, but I do believe that there's two things that I think Brent Brennan has a major problem on here. And one thing that I am going to say and that I'm going to push back on some, I am somebody, and I'm going to keep saying this because I think I've been unfairly tarnished. There's many things to tarnish Mike Luke about, many, many things. I'm an idiot. I'm a dweeb, all of that. The media doesn't turn anybody on a football coach. What happens, people on I could tell everybody that Brent Brennan is doing a great, great job. And people would say, yeah, I'm watching the product. It stinks. that fans are smarter than that. Same way if Arizona was 7-0 and I said Brennan stinks, they would say, no, you're an idiot. I watch the games. I know exactly what I'm seeing. Fans know what they're watching. Nobody is going to influence them, let alone some guy in the, doing a podcast out of the guest room in his house. So there is that. But here's, I guess, my question then is this city, at what point then, because people aren't going to be, I mean, we've lived this, we know people aren't going to start coming to games. They say announced 49,000 people at this. Ooh. There had to have been 23,000 people. I mean, it was not close to 49,000 people. People are not going to go to these games. If you have an off season then too, I don't know that anybody's enthused by it. That is the problem that Arizona faces right now.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, people right now are more willing to eat whatever they spent in tickets than to actually spend the time to go to the game.
Right. I mean, and that's the problem, is that you're putting something out there. You're putting something out there that is, I'm going to go on a Rich Rod rant for just a second here. And again, I get it. I get Rich Rod had a ton of flaws. But the thing that was interesting about Rich Rod was that Rich Rod was at least interesting. When you lost games, you were losing 59-48, and he was melting down. There was I don't want to say an enjoyment factor. I don't know that that's the right term.
Yeah.
But it was somewhat entertaining at least.
A little bit. I mean, he had a lot of, and I'll just speak from a media perspective. I mean, in interviews and press conferences, he had a lot of energy, and Rich is a wonderful storyteller. Mm-hmm. You may get tired of his stories after like 2 or 3 years, because then he starts to tell the same stories over and over and over, and he still thinks they're funny, but you've heard them all.
Right.
But he can stand up and work a room for 10 or 15 minutes, whatever it is, even though he really didn't like it.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, he really wasn't. I mean, he wasn't that extrovert guy who's going out, meeting with everybody, etc. But he could snap his fingers and turn it on real quick, and was rather entertaining.
He was rather entertaining in the product. I mean, people like watching People like watching football teams that score.
What's the most fun thing to watch?
Touchdowns.
A 2-minute drill for 60 minutes of the game.
Exactly.
Genius.
And so there was an entertainment value with it. But WBM says, let's tank and make Dino the head coach. That was funny. But there was an entertainment value with him. The problem with Brennan, too, is that you're losing, and it's boring.
I know.
It is boring. I mean, I've watched a lot of boring U of A football in the 90s, man. I mean, but this is boring, Anthony.
No,
that's the other
different.
problem.
I mean, the 90s, at least before like 97, they were boring by design.
No, I know.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to compare it to the 90s because it was still a much better. That's probably not fair.
Yeah,
but
this is boring because, and it's worse because they're trying not to be boring. But in the 90s, you got historically great defense, and you're just trying not to mess it up, and you're playing to your strengths.
Right.
They're not trying to bleed the clock and run the ball just so they could and play field position just to feed into their defense. It's none of that.
There's really none of right.
Yeah, none of that.
There's none of that. So I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go in that. Now it is time for the Branded Bills tip of the cap segment. Now look at this. Oh, Anthony, you would look really good in a Branded Bills. I couldn't imagine Anthony Gimino in a Branded Bills.
Yeah, why can't the PHNX send me some hats?
You just got to put it. I think you put in the request. You will get the Branded Bills, my friend. But now the Branded Bills, like I said, very, very good stuff here. And now this is brought to you by Branded Bills. Elevate your brand with Branded Bills, the perfect headwear and apparel. Use code PHNX for 20% off your first order. Tetairoa McMillan, tip of the cap. It stinks that Arizona stinks because Tetairoa McMillan is, you and I were talking about it. He is hands down the best football player here in the last 25 years. It's Chris McAllister, and then it goes to T-Mac. You know, you could say Gronk was it. You could say Gronk was in there, but Gronk was hurt. Gronk was hurt half of his time here, if not more. T-Mac is an absolute monster. If he is a multi-year All-Pro, Pro Bowler in the NFL, I don't think either one of us would be surprised at all. Tip of the cap to T-Mac. He's a stud.
Yeah, absolutely. He was doing it all, or trying to do it all tonight. From his freshman year to now, you've seen him improve his speed. You've seen him improve his yards after catch. He's just going to continue.
His elusiveness too. He makes a lot of guys miss now.
Yeah, I mean, he's got those long legs, all those long levers that he can change direction really well. And once he runs a 4.45 in the offseason, he's going to be a top 10 draft pick.
Yeah, and I think he's going to do that. I really do.
I would not be surprised at all.
Now, it is now time for the Back the A player of the game as well. Brought to you by NUTRL. 10 catches for 204 yards, 14 passing yards, touchdown in there. The dude's a stud. Like I said, he's somebody who looks like he should be starting at Ohio State or Alabama. He's at Arizona. It's unfortunate that Arizona has not been able to win games because he is he just checks off all the boxes. Like we just said, he's a monster. He is, again, the Back the A player performance is brought to you by NUTRL. Keep it tasty, Tucson. Enjoy responsibly. You don't see guys like T-Mac come through here. And I guess that's my question. My question is, Arizona, you generally, and again, the portal is obviously the great equalizer. I get all of that. But, generally you don't get better by losing dudes like T-Mac and what they're going to lose. So, and I don't know that I've seen something from the staff that leads me to believe that they're going to be able to compensate and make up and get it better. That's, I guess, my concern going into the offseason, Anthony.
Yeah, so you have really no faith, Mike. Is that what you're saying?
I have no faith. I have no faith for a variety of reasons. And I put this out there before. I don't really care. There's a couple different things. I just found that, I thought it was very odd, and I know I sound like a broken record. I thought it was very odd that when Brennan took over, he said he's never taken anything more responsibly, and he's never engaged the community whatsoever. There's been nothing, really. He said that he wanted to have open practices. He's always had open practices, yet when we would get the media emails about the practices, he would always put in parentheses at the end, do not tell anyone else what time and place these practices are. I think that's kind of. I think that's kind of.
Did he say he has open practices for the public?
Yes.
In addition to media, just
anybody. Exactly. He said he always has had open practices. They're open to the fans. Well, the fans would have to find out where it was. Yeah. And
what you should. All coaches should absolutely 100% open them up to whoever wants to go, because it looks good. It's a good look, and really, who's going to go?
Well, right. It's just
You're going to get a few diehards who want to stop by and see, but that's it.
It didn't make any sense to me. That part didn't make any sense to me. I don't understand not putting players out in the community, essentially hiding them. And again, look up the road at what Dilly does. Dilly is involved in the community. Doug Tamaro has players out there. You request an interview, you're going to get Cam Scadaboo on. He wants that to be a community type feel. He gets it in a way that it just doesn't appear that Brennan does. Meanwhile, it just feels like I don't even know the exact term that I'm just going with, but it just never felt. He's always felt paranoid to me or something in a way that I don't think that he should have ever felt paranoid. Now you got the curtains up over the weight room and stuff.
And he doesn't seem like a paranoid kind of guy to me.
Right. I mean,
he seems like he would be the open kind of coach. But yeah, I mean, I feel bad, for the guys who cover the team on a daily basis.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to be the old guy and say, hey, you remember when 2 or 3 times a week, I could stand at the end of practice as the people were coming off the field and say, hey, can I talk to you for a few minutes? And I get a one-on-one with anybody I wanted. It could be Nick Foles. It could have been Kadeem. It could have been anybody.
Right.
And they didn't try to, in later years, they just it's a sign of the times too. They started to protect certain guys or limit access. And that's really changed over the last 10, 15 years. But it didn't hurt anybody. Nobody got hurt by doing a nice interview where you get to know the people. And in this day and age, the equivalent of that would be to come on a podcast like this.
Well, right. And that's the thing, is that I also don't believe it, because I can look 90 miles up the road and see somebody that is doing that. That is, to me, the frustration. And you know what else it does? When you put yourself out there, it allows yourself goodwill with the community, because people want to root for people that they feel that they have a vested interest in, or that they are doing, that they are trying their best. He has never given anybody any reason to really root for him or say, Brennan, that's my guy. What I think he did is that he banked that I'm going to win games, and that's going to be enough for people.
Yeah, there's two ways. There's two ways to do that. You win and nobody cares.
Agreed.
Or you try to build up some goodwill. And I'll use Arizona basketball as somewhat an imperfect analogy. Who in the last, 10 years did we really get to know?
No, I agree. Exactly.
But it doesn't matter, because usually they're winning.
They won games.
Yeah. So, I started looking back, the Sean Miller stuff, and there were a lot of great players with great personalities who came through. Rondé, whoever. I think the one guy who really resonated with everybody was TJ McConnell.
Mm-hmm.
And because he was here, he played 2 years, here 3 years. So you got to know a little bit about his story and everything. But these football guys, you couldn't name one personal element.
And here's the problem.
For most of them.
And here's the problem that I have with this, is that a guy like a Wendell Moy, I'm going to use an example. He was an interesting situation because he was committed to Morgan State out of Long Beach Poly. He made a commitment, I think, to his father that he wanted to, that he was going to commit to his school because I think his father was dying of cancer or, something like that. And then you had Arizona came calling, and then within the first year he's starting. That's the kind of stuff that I think fans would dig to read a profile about.
And once the locals write that story, then you hear about it on the national broadcast.
Yep.
Because the telecasters read all that, or the SIDs give that information to them, and then that story gets perpetuated.
Right. Now, let me ask you this then. If you are Brennan and you are at this stage, you're 3-5, obviously probably not looking at a bowl game this season. What are you doing now, and what are your off-season priorities?
Well, keep the recruiting class together, hit the portal. More than I do. There's going to be a lot of kids leaving.
Right.
And part of that is there's a lot of kids leaving every program every winter. Here, we'll see how much pain there is with that. But
would Arizona be the worst team you've seen in recent memory that could have 3 first-round picks?
I don't know, Mike. I know we had that discussion. When you look at why is Michigan has 2 top 5 picks. Why aren't they better this year?
Well, I think they're still better than Arizona.
Yeah, but they're also the defending national champions.
Well, yeah,
but by Michigan standards, it's a disaster. I don't know if did they beat Michigan State today?
You also have you have a new coach. I get all of that. You lost, right? No, yeah. I get it. I'm just saying. Let me ask you this. Let me rephrase. Is Arizona the most disappointing team in the country?
I'd say Oklahoma State. They're winless in conference, right?
Yeah. Were they what was their preseason ranking?
They were higher than Arizona. They were 15, 17. I picked them to win the freaking Big 12.
Right.
So that's on me.
That is on you. You picked a team with Alan Bowman to win the Big 12?
What?
You picked a team with Alan Bowman to win the Big 12?
I know, it's crazy, right?
Yeah,
But,
I never really got
Mike,
that one.
they had everyone back. They have a superstar in Ollie Gordon.
Yeah, but I've never
They
understood
had
that.
all their offensive line back. So I would actually say Oklahoma State. But
all right, now Kevin WN says Florida State or Michigan are more disappointing, Mike. Florida State's the answer.
Florida State's a good call.
Florida State's the answer. Michigan lost 18 to 22 starters, so I don't know that I necessarily agree with that one.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, they're having a disappointing Michigan season.
But Florida State's the answer because
Florida State is the correct answer, but I think Oklahoma State's right behind them.
Who would win, Florida State or Arizona?
You know what? As far as weird as it sounds, I'd say Arizona.
I'm backing the A on that one all day.
Yeah.
I'm backing the A on that one all day. I don't, honestly, I don't even think it's close.
Yeah.
I would take Arizona in there.
Yeah, I think. Again, I don't know the situation in the Arizona locker room. I don't know if they're all together. I don't know if they're all pulling the rope in the same direction, whatever coaching thing you want to use. But I'm guessing it's still better than Florida State.
Right. Let's see here. Yes. All right. Now let's talk a little bit then about Noah Fifita. He was far from the reason that Arizona lost this game. And honestly, thought he was fine. Noah to me has been the embodiment though of everything that's wrong with the offense, and I don't know that I blame Noah because I don't. Here's where I'm at with Noah, and again, I know I sound like a broken record on this. I know what I watched last year. I know what I saw. I know what I saw. A guy that was making all the right decisions, that looked comfortable. And the thing about him, too, is that he climbed in the pocket. I think it might have been you. The way that he navigated the pocket last year was absolutely masterful. And this year, there hasn't really been any of that. If anything, he's been going the opposite way. And, running, 12, 13 yards back. It has looked like just a totally different football player. And, again, this is somebody that, scouting people said was about as cerebral a quarterback as, they've scouted. He's 5'7", so that's the way that, obviously the way it is. But I will say that I don't understand why that, to me, the fact that they've never been able to get on the same page with Noah has been something that quite frankly, I put way more on the staff than on him. But
yeah, I don't really put any of that on him. And yeah. I'd love to go back. Again, if we had like access to these people to ask them real questions, obviously there was like a 48, 72-hour period. Brennan was hired. He meets with everybody, especially T-Mac and Noah, and convinces them to stay.
Right.
And it can't just be all, hey, we're family. We're going to have a family atmosphere. We're going to love you, blah, blah, blah. There had to be a football plan presented during that time.
But
right?
Was there, or was that,
or
was it just that I'm a nice guy? You guys are nice people.
I don't know. I mean, that's
because Jody Ayler always makes that point. He always says when he's asked about what his identity is, or what the identity of this team was, he always says, well, I guess the identity for Brent Brennan is that he kept players. I don't know that can be an identity.
Yeah, I mean, it was great that he did. That was job one. His first job was to keep the leaders of the team, which he did.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'd love to know the answer to that. Asking Noah or T-Mac is like, what did he tell you about the football plan? What did he tell you about this is what we want to do on offense?
Right.
You hear that all the time with recruits. They come in and on the visit, they're talking with the coaches and they spend 2 hours breaking down film and putting stuff on the whiteboard. Did that happen? I don't know if it did. But first of all, I put that on the coaches because whatever they're doing didn't play to what Noah did well last year. Noah was great at getting the ball out of his hands and hitting the quick pass.
Right. There hasn't really been any of that this year.
Then finding the secondary guy if that wasn't really there. On top of that, and we've talked about this too, is like, is the running back room better than last year? No. Is the offensive line group better than last year? No. Are the receivers better than last year? No. Are the tight ends group better than last year? No. And so all that weight falls back on Noah. And for most of the season, he's been trying to do too much with less.
Now, before we get to Erika all day, that is there on assignment. It is time for the Desert Financial Credit Union by the numbers. Okay, here we go. Presented by Desert Financial Credit Union, Arizona's #1 credit union, named by Forbes. Okay, here's where it comes down to passing yards 308, 203. But time of possession is the difference in this game, 35-04 to 24-56. And when West Virginia needed to be able to make plays to be able to put this game out of reach, it did exactly that. West Virginia made the plays when it mattered. That's why they won the game. That's my opinion on the Desert Financial Credit Union by the numbers. What say you, Anthony Gimino?
1,000% yes. They were 4-4 on 4th down, Mike.
Yep, that's going to get it done.
That's ridiculous.
That is. Now, let's go to for a few minutes, let's go to our sideline reporter there. Press box for the lovely Erika L. Day. Hello, Erika L. Day. Are you done making TikToks of me up in the press box yet?
For now, Mike.
All right. That's what I like to hear. Now, give us the insight from Brent Brennan at the presser.
I'm going to be honest, everybody. Listen, we've heard this over and over again from Brent in that they fought for each other, they're a family, and they're willing to do what's best for the team. And at this point, I need the coaching staff to step up and do what's best for the team and put together better plays for them to execute, because we've seen them be identityless over and over and over again. And it's getting old. To have that early turnover in the game was it killed all the momentum. Brent said it. Noah said it. I mean, it killed every bit of momentum they had going up the field. And it didn't seem to turn around until the fourth quarter. And I mean, Mike and I joke about this being a second half team, and at what cost?
Right.
At what cost?
Well, and I see, Anthony, that's kind of what we were talking about too, is that it seems every single presser is the same exact thing.
Absolutely. The thing, yeah, that's one lesson he didn't learn from Dick Tomey, because Dick Tomey, after a loss, was the patient father explaining everything to everybody, because he wanted people to understand. He wanted people to understand what happened. So all that blame fell back on him too, and not the players.
Right.
And I'm not sure Brent just spewing all those platitudes is helping that cause at all.
And you guys said it before I came on the show, like, it only benefits them to be open to the media. It only benefits the players and the coaching staff for the community to know them, because it gives them something to root for. I think back to when Jed Fish was here. Jed Fish was always doing extracurriculars, and it benefited him when they were 1-11. Period. Like, it helped him win over the community and helped him have some rapport to lose, because this is not working out for Brent right now. He does not have a lot of rapport with the community.
Now, Brent, I guess Brennan said that. Did he talk about the injuries then in the presser?
In a very elusive way, as always.
Right. I want to talk about the injury part, Anthony. Okay. The injury part to me is fascinating, because when you have players, I mean, every single game, it seems like 7 or 8 guys are down on the field. At what stage do you say that, that's just a luck of the draw, or you're like, well, it feels like there might be a more systemic problem here?
Yeah, well, clearly I know all about strength and conditioning.
Well,
so
me too. I mean,
clearly, I don't know. I generally attribute a lot of that to year-over-year luck. Stuff happens. A lot of the stuff that happens can be a non-contact injury. It can be a dude rolls up on your leg. I don't care what condition you are, how big you are, how strong you are. A dude rolls up on the back of your leg, you might tear something bad in that leg.
Right.
But to quote Brennan, I think that's something you have to look at, Mike.
I think it's absolutely something you had to look at.
I mean, that's something he would say.
Right.
And you do. But generally, I would say stuff happens.
Erika,
well, and like Billy says in the comments, he said, this is what Brent said verbatim. He can't know their identity because of injuries. And we think back to literally right now, West Virginia was playing without their starting quarterback. Like, you can't negate having an identity to injuries. It can't matter.
Right. Now let's talk a little bit about this quote. So Brent Brennan said that he thinks Arizona has a chance to be a good football team, but they just haven't proven it yet.
And Sheer asked him to elaborate. Am I muted for real? That's what it said on my screen.
No, you're good. No, you're good.
Okay. But no, yeah, he said that verbatim, and he was asked to elaborate, and he really did not. If I'm quite frank with you, it's kind of a same luck of the draw type answer, where he's like, they're good in practice. And that's okay. It needs to translate onto the field. And we've seen it 4 games in a row now that it does not.
Now, Kevin WN, thinking outside the box, says maybe injured is the identity. Could that be the identity that we're going for at this stage? Maybe we're not thinking about this right, fellas. Or fellas, ladies.
Are we tanking for something?
First round, first pick in the draft, baby. That's what we want here. We are going for the next first pick in the draft. But what else? Any other nuggets, Miss Day?
I will say Noah continues to take responsibility for this team over and over again. It's extremely impressive. And he gave credit to where credit was due in that the O-line was much better than they have been in the last few games. He got sacked a lot less. He only took 2 sacks, and he took complete responsibility for them. He also said that they were playing at times in the fourth quarter backyard ball. And I think that it really benefited them not only on the field, but also off the field in terms of having that, rapport with one another again. I said it on Twitter in the third quarter. It felt like the T-Mac and Noah connection was back. Is it really? Who knows? But we need those outside of the box type, plays in order, in my opinion, to get that, connection back between the two of them.
All right, Erika, real quick. What is it like sitting next to me in the press box? Was it more enjoyable than you thought it would be?
I want to say if I had to use one word to describe it, it would be smelly.
Oh, appreciate it. No, wow, I appreciate the kind gesture. But Brent Yormark was sitting behind me. Anthony Gimino, though, I'll give Anthony.
Brent may describe you the same way. I don't know.
I offered Anthony Gimino a mozzarella stick, a terrible mozzarella stick, as a form of my version of the lei. Yeah, and you took it.
As a gift, how could I refuse?
You can't refuse it. Absolutely.
Mike tried to give me an empty corn dog stick tonight. So count your blessings,
Mike,
Gimino.
Do better, Mike.
Well, listen, she took like 30 videos of me up in the press box today. I was listening to La Cucaracha, La Cucaracha. Have you heard this song, Anthony?
Yeah, Mike. I believe I have.
Oh, wow. Well, Erika, you should put the video out there. See what the folks think. They will like it.
The great KT has the video in his possession. It's out of my hands now.
All right. Erika L. Day, we very much appreciate you. We'll see you at the Halloween party.
Thank you.
Salute emoji, TTFN. Ta-ta for now. Very much appreciate Erika L. Day. Okay. Now, Anthony, moving forward, Arizona Central Florida, the space game. What say you on that one?
Well, there was a time when, like over the summer, when we were having discussions about, hey, AG, maybe you'd like to go to a road game this year and cover for PHNX Sports. And that was the game we had kind of circled as it should be a really good game. It's their space game. It's different. It's a new opponent for Arizona. There'd be a lot of storylines. I ain't going. So, and it's not a very important game.
What's the line in that game going to be? What do you think the line in that game is going to be?
Well, UCF has lost. Haven't they lost 4 in a row now? Is it just?
And there's a lot of problems.
But they're not. Yeah, they're not particularly good. They lost. I think they lost like 5 guys at the end of the first month who decided to sit out the rest of the season to preserve their red shirt and/or transfer later. So that's
never a good sign.
That was not a good sign at all. They replaced KJ Jefferson with Ja'Cory Brown at quarterback, who's a runner, which is going to give Arizona problems. And I think AJ Harvey, the running back, is fantastic. He's one of my favorite players, probably the best running back in a league full of really, 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 really good running backs. So I think Arizona will have trouble. I think UCF, while not very good, could just give Arizona a steady diet of run game that they won't be able to control.
Yes, I think so. Are you picking UCF right now? You can change
a little early, but Arizona has really given me no reason to pick them. I picked West Virginia today, and that kind of worked out okay.
Yes. You have not been given a reason. Now, but I'll give you something else a reason, though, Anthony Gimino, something that you would like, by the way. Branded Bills. Listen, look at Anthony Gimino. Look at Anthony
Need
Gimino.
something right here.
Yes, you need a branded Bills, my friend. Branded Bills is here for Anthony Gimino, the G-Dog, Anthony Gimino. All right, either way, check it out. Kevin Thomas behind the screen has a branded Bills. This is very true. Do not doubt me on this. He has a branded Bills. All right, now, the deal with Branded Bills, head to Branded Bills and use code PHNX for 20% off your first order. Branded Bills, premium headwear and apparel. Save 20% with code PHNX. I wore a Branded Bills the other day. Made me feel much cooler than I thought. Now, speaking of cool, Sanderson Ford. Now, you might say, Mike, Luke, Anthony Gimino. Those guys aren't cool. You would be right. Guess what? Can you imagine us in a Sanderson Ford driving up and down I-10? The strength, the confidence, the girth that comes with a Sanderson Ford. It would look amazing, Anthony. You would agree with this?
100%.
Yes, I mean, yeah, sometimes you can just kind of follow the lead right there. Anthony Gimino believes in the Sanderson Ford. I believe in the Sanderson Ford. You believe in the Sanderson Ford. Check out Sanderson Ford. Okay, now here's the deal with it. Head to Sanderson Ford and use and check out their new F-150 trucks with 3.9 financing for 60 months plus up to $4,000 cash back, and pick up a pair of tickets to see Weezer, Anthony's favorite band, Sublime, and November Nights. While supplies of 100 tickets last, no purchase or test drive. You could maybe see Anthony Gimino up there. Offer on the 2024 F-150 STX OAC from Ford Credit. One pair of tickets per household. Requires a driver's license. Okay. Now, let's get to the Super Snaps. The Super Snaps. We had a lot of Super Snaps earlier in the show. If we could get to
Very
these.
cool.
Yes, very much like the Super Snaps. All right, Steve Martinez, $2, $9,999,998 to get rid of Brennan. We are already there. Now another one, Steve Martinez, $8 more, $10 into to get rid of Brennan as well. Very, very lucrative as well. Steve Martinez, Rodrigo Diaz de Vivar. Love that name, by the way. Brennan's coaching style is to stand on the sideline paralyzed and ask himself, should I clap 3 or 4 times? Nah, gosh darn it, 4 times is too aggressive. Oh, $10. Rodrigo, that was funny. Very much like that one. I think we have another Super Snap. Yeah. Greg, $4.99. Just want to let you know that I appreciate hearing from you and the others on the show. Seriously, screw what Coach Clapper and his staff think. $4.99. Greg, very, very much appreciate that. Steve Martinez, we need to move on from Coach B. Man, we are now $30 into the $10 million movement. Very much appreciate that as well. Love our Super Snaps. All right, Anthony, you were obviously impressed by the performance. Put a bow on this for everybody.
Yeah. Is that one of the things you always attribute to me that's not true?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there were some better things, but again, this was a game set up for them to win. All the circumstances lined up for Arizona to get back to 500, to make a case that, yeah, we're at least going to be a bowl team this year, and maybe, go into the offseason with some kind of good feeling.
Right.
Now, every game, those odds just get slimmer and slimmer. I mean, my faith hasn't bottomed out like many of y'all, but it gets right. It should. The results are the results.
Right.
And I think Brent is a really good guy and a good coach. So I hate it's not a Makovic. The results are kind of Makovician or Sumlinin, but they're different. Those were bad coaches and bad people at Arizona.
Yes.
Brent's not that guy. And that's why
he's not a bad guy at all. No.
I've got, I'm hanging on to a little bit of empathy, but again, I'm not a fan who's going to be, living and dying on the results and having to deal with friends of theirs who are ASU fans. And I get all that. It can be hard when your team is losing. So, but I really don't expect a big turnaround. I don't.
Yep. All right. That's it for Mr. Anthony Gimino. Everybody out there. Oh, we had one more Super Snap, by the way. Let's see here. Super Snap, Paul Panhands, a great name too. $4.99 Super Snap. Very much appreciate you as well. But everybody out there, you make the show. Thank you a ton. JJ Salinas, very nice meeting you, the great JJ Salinas. But for Anthony Gimino, for the prodigious Kevin Thomas, I am merely Mike Luke. You have been listening to the AZ Wildcats postgame show.
We all silly like the mayor.